Hello, friends. I am Rich Carlson, a Senior Cloud Solutions Architect at Microsoft, and I welcome you to the Partner Technical Success channel. At Microsoft, we value our coveted partners and the innovative services and solutions that they bring to market. Today, we'll discuss the state of the union for Cloud Native and the many integrations with Azure. Firstly, I would like to introduce Tommy Falgout, a Senior Cloud Solutions Architect on the US One Commercial Partner team. Here's a little bit about Tommy. Tommy loves to build cool things. In his formative years, Tommy was obsessed with Legos, and now he is a Senior Cloud Solutions Architect. At Microsoft, he builds with his partners large-scale distributed applications designed to run on the Azure platform and Kubernetes. Tommy is also a star and has been featured on Nickelodeon as a trebuchet expert, and even has his own IMDb page. And he was also most recently on the Red Bull soapbox race. So on that note, take it away, Tommy.
Thanks, Rich. Well, let's dive right in. By now, you've probably heard of the phrase cloud native and often associate it to containers and/or Kubernetes. And if you've used containers or Kubernetes, you've quickly learned that that ecosystem is huge and constantly growing and evolving. In this video, I'll share what I call State of the Union Cloud Native to help you understand what you need to know to be successful in the cloud native ecosystem. Today's session will focus on deepening your knowledge of cloud native technologies at Microsoft. We'll have a brief overview on how containers and Kubernetes are becoming so popular, as well as a definition of cloud native and the Cloud Native Compute Foundation. Lastly, we'll look at cloud native tooling and content to help you on your cloud native journey. This slide, it tells the big picture. By next year, 2022, they say 75% of global organizations will be running containerized applications in production. But really, what's behind all of this? Well, Kubernetes. And you might ask yourself, well, what is Kubernetes? It is an open source project that is designed to deploy, scale, and manage containers. In its written form, you might also hear it referred to as its numeronym K8S, but most people just pronounce it Kubernetes. If you're interested in going deeper in Kubernetes, you can go to aka.ms/learn-K8S. There are also links at the end of this video. Kubernetes is widely used across large enterprises and small startups. It has a huge community with over 1 million contributors and is supported on all the major cloud platforms. The thing is, by itself, it is not enough. There's many things you have to consider when deploying your application to production. For example, DevOps. When the developers make a change, do you automatically want to push that change to dev, then staging, then test, then production after all the tests are complete? Monitoring. What about capturing your logs, the metrics, application traces? Security. Who's allowed to create new containers? What containers are allowed to talk to each other? Governance. For example, how do we allow only containers that we have built and we know to run on our clusters? There's a very formal definition of cloud native as provided by the Cloud Native Compute Foundation. It's very wordy.
Tommy, this is very informative, but not completely clear. For a professional like me, a generalist, how can I better understand this?
Great question. So in this next slide, I kind of boil it down to its essential elements. Instead of a strict definition of this is a cloud native application, I find it's better to look at the attributes that a cloud native application has. First off, this may or may not involve containers. Very often it does, and many people see serverless as a cloud native model of deploying applications. Loosely coupled services is a pretty strong definition of that model. APIs are how most of our microservices and cloud native applications communicate. And they'll also use DevOps to automate their deployments and operations. And of course, they will be deployed on the cloud elastic virtual solutions or infrastructure.
Okay, Tommy, and thank you. I now have a much better understanding of this, but one more question. Who's responsible for governing all of this?
Another good question. That is the Cloud Native Compute Foundation. The Cloud Native Compute Foundation, or also known as the CNCF, they are a project of the Linux Foundation. It was formed in 2000 and is the company that sponsors Linus Torvalds, the creator of Linux. The Linux Foundation also has many other projects: Hyperledger, Node.js, Let's Encrypt, and Ceph. Their funding primarily comes from membership dues, such as corporations like Microsoft, Red Hat, Twitter, and others. They are composed and are deeply integrated into the community. There's over 200 meetups with over 140,000 members participating. Projects in the Cloud Native Compute Foundation go through a sandbox, then incubating, then graduated lifecycle. Kubernetes is the most popular one inside there, and it is graduated, but it is not the only project in the Cloud Native Compute Foundation that is graduated. Prometheus, Envoy, Core DNS, or many others. The last time that there was an in-person KubeCon or KubeCon and Cloud Native Con in the North America was in 2019, and there was over 12,000 attendees. I was one of them. And there are also two other conferences that they do worldwide, and had an attendance of over 23,000 in total. Now that we've looked at the larger ecosystem, let's see what this looks like on Azure. As you can see, Azure covers the larger ecosystem all the way from the developer to the platform and to the community. So let's dig deep into each of these. If you're a developer, you're probably already familiar with Visual Studio Code. Well, there's an add-on for Kubernetes, and this allows you to build and troubleshoot Kubernetes applications from within VS Code. GitHub Actions also allows you to test changes from a pull request directly into Azure Kubernetes service before that pull request is merged into your repository's main branch. Bridge to Kubernetes allows you to run and debug code inside your development computer while still connected to your Kubernetes cluster, sending traffic into it with the rest of your applications and services. If you are an operator, some of these projects might be of interest to you. CADA is the Kubernetes event-driven autoscaling. It is an application autoscaling made simple. Typically, scaling in Kubernetes is around memory or CPU utilization. This allows you to scale events based on events, such as the number of messages in a queue or other infrastructure changes. Dapr allows you to focus on your application's core logic and keep your code simple and portable when talking to external systems, such as databases. The CNAB, or the Cloud Native Application Bundle, is a specification for packaging distributed apps, and the Open Service Mesh is a lightweight and extensive Cloud Native service mesh. Now, if you're operating the platform, we have even more tools. Azure Active Directory allows you to connect to your AKS cluster so that you can manage access to the AKS API using Azure Active Directory. We also have Azure Policy, which can coordinate with your AKS cluster to provide policy and governance. Azure Key Vault allows you to manage secrets and keys inside AKS, as well as Azure Arc enabled Kubernetes, which allows you to manage non-Azure Kubernetes instances as if they were native Azure resources. We also have a number of reference architectures. This describes a very basic AKS configuration that can be the starting point for most deployments. This reference implementation focuses mainly on the infrastructure and the DevOps considerations for running microservices on AKS. We have an AKS secure baseline architecture and implementation. This includes recommendations for networking, security, identity, management, and monitoring of the cluster based on an organization's business requirements. Compared to the microservices reference architecture, this architecture doesn't focus on the application as it has an uninteresting workload written in ASP.NET 5. In addition to the AKS Secure Baseline architecture is the AKS Secure Baseline implementation. This is an actual implementation you can deploy directly into your Azure subscription with the details inside GitHub. The Cloud Adoption Framework is a collection of documentation, implementation guidance, best practices, and tools that are proven guidance from Microsoft designed to accelerate your cloud adoption journey. The CAF has been extended to include specific framework guidance for Kubernetes.
Wow, wow, wow. Tommy, this is a lot. This is a lot. The reference architectures, the cloud adoption framework. To become familiar with this and start implementing these technologies, where's the best place to get started?
Thankfully, we have all of our sources online through these short links. aka.ms/learnk8s is a really great place to get started, as well as you can see our documentation, our roadmap, as well as other best practices in addition to the cloud adoption framework.
Thank you, Tommy, very much for the insightful introduction and State of the Union for Cloud Native. And I thank all the Microsoft partners out there for viewing this informative episode. Look for many more informative technical episodes to come on the Microsoft Partner Technical Success Channel. Thank you, everyone.